welcome to Conversation with Entrepreneurs. We see some familiar faces. We'd like to say hello again, and we also see some new faces, which we'd like to say thank you very much for spending this portion of your evening with us. As you know, we've had a series, entrepreneurial series that has gone in concert with our mobile app challenge. And tonight, we have the opportunity to welcome someone who has been involved in both of those things. Our entrepreneur this evening is Rani Yadav-Ranjan. For those of you who have been here before, you will know that she looks very familiar because she's been in the role as host. But tonight we get to turn the tables on Rani, and we actually get to hear about her illustrious career and how she came from her path to becoming a serial entrepreneur, which is an opportunity we're all very much looking forward to hearing. We also have the opportunity this evening to welcome a new host, and I'd like to give her a brief introduction before we get started, and then I'll say a few words about Rani. Jan Mendenhall will be facilitating our evening tonight. Jan serves as the Associate Vice Chancellor for Development here at UC Merced. And an interesting figure I learned about Jan is she is now the most tenured person at UC Merced's campus because she's been here for 13 years.
Wow.
The old geezer, no. And with that also, she was employee number 7 or 8 at UC Merced. So a lot of ways, very much a startup as UC Merced started at that particular time as well. So welcome, Jan. Thank you so much. I first had the opportunity to meet our speaker this evening almost a year to the day. And a group of us have been talking about how do we better prepare students with creativity, innovation, to begin to go to work in the startup world or to become entrepreneurs. And the name I kept hearing all throughout campus was Rani's. So we had the opportunity to meet for a lunch that, and if you've lunched with Rani, it almost turned into a dinner because we started with a lunch menu and they were about ready to bring us a dinner menu. And we tipped very well as we sat there that evening. But very quickly as we got into this conversation, we started wrestling with those questions. And out of that conversation, an idea was born, as probably a lot of businesses are, on a cocktail napkin in a garage. This one just happened to be over some fairly decent Italian food. And that idea was the mobile app challenge. And we left that particular engagement with the idea of coming back to campus and starting to create it. And looking back through the emails and the correspondences, Rani's vision for the mobile app challenge has always been one that's very basic, which is to assist students in developing the skills that are going to allow them to hit the ground running day one. And we've started to see that with the group, the first group that has been going through that. But her interest in that area doesn't end there. She also, as we looked at this particular opportunity, said we also need to bring folks to campus who share entrepreneurial and share their experiences with our population. So she, in addition to being a co-founder of the Mobile App Challenge, is also the founder of this very series here. And for that, I think it's a wonderful opportunity at this point to hear her story and to hear her experiences and how she can kind of relay those to us. So from all of us here at UC Merced, we owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude. And we thank you so much for the opportunity to hear your story this evening as you start to share it with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Rani.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. And I know a lot of you guys have been here the last few times, and you've heard from amazing people. And you've heard their stories about beer and garlic fries and pets.com. And so today you're going to hear about a little bit of my path and my journey that I was on. And, you know, one thing that you have to remember as you evolve into entrepreneurs is you don't start out wanting to be an entrepreneur. You know, you don't really go to school and say, you know, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. You go to school for something, right? I didn't start out wanting to be an entrepreneur. I actually became one because of events and circumstances that I saw a problem with, and I just got pissed off. And I thought, this is ridiculous. So what can you do? But, you know, entrepreneurs, we're not born, we're made. You know, we are made to become entrepreneurs. And we do that because of a personal problem that we've had. With the app teams, as Brian mentioned, think over and over again, and some of these guys are behind you here, will tell you that it's all about what is wrong. You know, what is your one problem that you're trying to attack? Well, I did the same thing. So in 1990, I have to look at my dates here because I keep forgetting that. In 1995, my 3 kids were in preschool, and my husband was working, and my family was all over the United States. And I really wanted them to share and see what I was seeing, these cute little kids, you know, like you all were probably, in school playing with arts and crafts, and it wasn't available. It just wasn't there. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. What can I do? So what I ended up doing was realizing what I wanted was a camera in the classroom. Really very simple. How do I solve my problem? I want a camera. And I went out and I thought, well, how hard can it be to put a camera in a classroom? Well, it's really hard. You have insurance and liabilities, and you have to worry about the technology and the security. All of a sudden, the simple idea of I want to put a camera in this classroom so they can watch turns into this huge, momentous affair. Well, that was one component. The other component was the technology wasn't there yet. There was no internet in 1995, that was reasonable. The camera quality was really poor, and the insurance issues weren't there, and the adoption would have been slow. So I thought, okay, well, this is more than I want to deal with today. Let me go back and work. So I got back into programming again, because I'm a software coder by heart. And I started coding. And I went back and I realized, you know what, this is great, but there was another problem. And so one day when I was working, and life was good, my husband called me. My husband is a PhD, and he was giving a lecture in San Francisco, and he got a ticket. And I'm not sure how many of y'all resonate with getting tickets, but they have to be taken care of. So Rajiv got a ticket, and he was on a business trip a month later and called me and said, a month ago I got this ticket. And I think it's due today. Can you go check? And sure enough, I went out and checked our car, and there it was. It was due today. And he was in San Francisco County. We live in San Jose County, about 50 miles between us. And so I called up the phone number after much yelling and stuff. I called up the phone number, and I said, I got to pay this ticket. What can I do? They're like, well, we're open between 9 and 5. You can come on up and pay. And I said, oh, no. You're in San Francisco County. I'm down here in San Jose. I got 3 kids. What can I do? They're like, nope, there's no other choice. And I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, this $10 ticket just became $150. What do I do? So called my husband back after much yelling and ranting and raving of, how could you do this? Turned out, he's like, well, you're a programmer. Why don't you do something about it? I'm like, oh, I think it was just a way to shut me up, but it worked. So I got off the phone, and I started sketching out what I thought I would need to pay this ticket today and have it credited today. And what I needed was a technology that would allow me to enter a ticket, enter my payment information, like my name, my address, my city, state, zip, my phone number, my choice of how I wanted to pay it. So it was a check or a credit card. And then I wanted to hit submit, and I didn't want to see what happened to it. And then I wanted to come back and say, yes, your ticket's been paid. Thank you so much. That's what I wanted to do. And I did. I wrote some patents on it. I started developing a company around it. And in 1999 and 2000, I filed some papers that today are basic e-commerce. But back then, it was a new idea. It was something that nobody had thought of. And I could not get any venture capitalists to look at me, because when I sat across from them, if you remember from last week when Julie said, when she sits across from people, she doesn't look like them either. Neither did I. I sat across from folks, I didn't look like them. And they couldn't understand why this woman, who had this parking ticket as an example, could ever run or build a company, much less a solid technology that could be deployable across every spectrum of the country and slowly the world. And I kept telling them that a catalyst is what needs to happen. I kept trying to teach them that women can be entrepreneurs, that we are savvy, that we are educated, but because we balance so many things, we can also handle budgeting. We are leaders because we know we can balance time life. We can do so much more. And on top of everything else, guess what? I authored my patent. I know what I'm doing here, folks. Well, the VCs couldn't get it. Went through lots of VCs. And it is very, very difficult for entrepreneurs to sit in front of a venture capitalist and hear them say, I'll just put on a 32-cent stamp instead. I don't know why anybody uses e-commerce thing. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You just need to go back and think of something cool. You know what's cool? Yahoo is cool. Go do something like Yahoo and come back. And I thought, well, if I was going to do Yahoo, I would probably call it Boohoo. It's been done. Why would I do Yahoo? And what pain does it give me? Nothing at all. I actually like the yellow pages. So I wouldn't have used a Yahoo, right? It wasn't my pain. So I'm sitting around, I'm thinking, necessity is the mother of invention. I'm a mother. Why aren't mothers inventing? You know, why do you have to fit a particular stereotype to get funded? Why do I have to be a specific, you know, pony-haired kid trying to get my first $500,000? I don't. I am a savvy person, and I can teach these VCs a thing or two. And I went through my list, by the way. My thing of VC started out with much bravado, and I went, but each time, and every single time, I finished. Once I knew there was a no, because I can teach you guys telltale signs of no. No is when you get some more traction, come back. I want to see some more metrics, come back. You know what? When you get the next client, then we'll talk. Those are no's, right? So the minute I would hear that whole question of, yeah, but have you? I'm like, okay, it's now my turn to talk, because I'm done listening to you guys. And then I would go on my little discussion and education mode of why women entrepreneurs were worth investing in. No. So when I started in 1999, there were 13 women funds that focused on women entrepreneurs. There was one organization that had just launched supporting only women entrepreneurs. It was the Forum of Women Entrepreneurs. Fast forward to today, there's 2 companies. There's 2 funds that work on women, for women. And Forum of Women Entrepreneurs just included executives, because there just aren't enough women entrepreneurs. And that's really a shame, because we can, well, what was that song? We can bring home the bacon and we can cook it. And then, if we're not careful, we'll serve it also. So that's always a bad thing. But that's what ended up happening. You know, not too long ago, there was a research study done by Harvard and Duke that said of the 500 technology companies that had been funded, only 37% of the company leaders had engineering or computer science backgrounds. And of those 500 companies, only 0.002 were founded by women. Think about that for a second. But you know, once you have your idea and you're good to go, so you walk into a VC and you're like, you know, I'm a technologist, I've got this really cool e-commerce idea. You can pay your ticket or you can buy something at any time. In real time, you get credit for it. And they're like, well, this technology is so cool. You should fund it. And they're like, yeah, but how are you going to grow the business? And I'm thinking, what are you talking about the business? I just created like this payment thing. This is so cool. They're like, yeah, this is weird, but how are you going to scale the business? And that's when you realize that technologists were pretty cool people, but building a technology in some ways is an easy part to growing a business. You know, so it has to be a marriage. A company of 1 won't succeed, but a company of 3 could succeed. And that's why our mobile app teams have to have a minimum of 3, because you need that collaboration. You need when you're tired. You know, I was lucky. I had an amazing support team at home. I mean, you know, between the kids and my husband, I think we've all done a startup together. In fact, they've done 3 startups together with me. So they know what's involved. And if you don't have that support system, you need that team behind you, because you won't succeed without it. The other thing that I wanted to really share with you what happened then. So e-commerce wasn't going anywhere. People just did not believe in paying for free to make a payment. I mean, for free, you can make a payment online. You know, I went to Japan. The Japanese government actually thought we were going to shut down the country itself, because their whole business world would change with e-commerce coming in. So that was a bad deal. About that time, we thought, okay, what else can I do? You know, this is all fine, but now it's boring. It's 2 years. I've already built the technology. I've filed my patents. I've heard no, it's enough. What can I do? So we were doing some construction. I thought about that time, you know what? New idea. I want data. I want to know which painter to hire, and I want to do it when I want to do it, like 11 o'clock at night, glass of wine. Let's figure out which painter we should hire. So back in 2002, I thought, you know what? I need to go get data. I need to find out information, because you guys are all, you know, you've taken science classes and you know what data is, right, and how valuable it can be. And I thought to myself, I don't really care if my neighbor liked her painter, because I may hate him. He might be just a home wrecker. He might have a criminal record. I don't know what he has. I don't know if he has insurance. What if he steps on a nail and then sues me? So I started in 2002 mining public databases. I actually was one of the first companies in the world. I went out and connected every federal, state, and county database in the country, all 45,000 of them, pulled in all their data, and had this 13 terabytes of just names. We had 36 terabytes of information of addresses and everything else. And guess what I could do by the end of this time? I could tell you about your life. I could tell you the minute you enter the grid, so we were talking about that today, the app challenge. The minute you were on the web from your high school, from a debate team, from a football team, you were on that web, I had you. Because from there, I knew what your hometown was. So think about this for a second. I know what your hometown is. I know where you live. You are within 2 miles of that high school is where you live. So now I know where you live. From there, I just follow you around. I follow you to college because it's public information on your school websites. I follow you from college to your first job. I follow you from your professional licensing that you may have. Guess what? I follow you to the house you just bought because I know your name, I know where you were. Now I followed you from your house to your voting record because it's public information. So I know if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent. Now I've taken that data because you've told me now how old you are. I know your phone number. I know your neighbors. I know if there was a one call to your house. I know when you responded. I know when you pay your taxes. I know all of this. And I thought, this is so cool. It was just cool. I didn't really care about the money. Back to the VCs, the venture capitalists. Some of us call them vulture capitalists. But back to the venture capitalists. Here it is, 2002, and I'm telling them, guys, data is cool. We got to get into data. Let me just teach you. Data is going to be the future. Data is going to be the new currency. What did I get from venture capitalists? No, data's not cool. You know what's cool? Google is cool. Can you do what Google does? And I'm like, I can do Google 10 times on steroids. Are you kidding? I have data. You know, you kidding? I can tell you. In fact, I can even tell you where your email address originated from. I can tell you which country you were in. You sent that email address. That's data.
Thank you so much, Rani. You know, you talked about how important your support team is, and you've brought them with you. And it's such a privilege for us. Would you please introduce your special support team?
Of course. So I had to introduce you guys to my team because when they see me drive all this way and I go home and they have hot food ready for me and everything is done. So I'm going to introduce my mom, Suki. This is my youngest daughter, Krisha, who is a senior in high school. My son, Sean, who is a senior at Purdue. My daughter, Alicia, who is a junior at Purdue. My husband, Rajiv, who is also a co-founder of a company. And my dad, Jag Sodhi, who was the first entrepreneur I ever knew.
So they've flown in from Purdue, our Boilermakers from Purdue, Oklahoma. Thank you so much. And you know, Rani gives so much of her time to help you, particularly in the App Challenge teams. And let's just take a little bit of time out. All of the time you spent with these teams, what words of advice do you have for them now?
Well, they got an earful today. But, you know, our teams, our kids here are so different. You have no idea how different you guys are. I mean, you're entrepreneurs. Our first 27 kids, you are entrepreneurs because you stepped up to this unproven idea. You listened to people that had never really done this particular exercise before. You had faculty that we had talked to. You had deans that that Brian and I had spoken to, but you didn't know about it, who had kind of signed off. But I will tell you that going forward, being the first at anything that is record-setting, you are the first mobile app challenge in the United States for undergrads. And that is a feat that will never be replaced by anybody else again.
So we have an audience filled with students, people who are dreaming, envisioning, starting a business. Do you recommend that they get some experience working for somebody else, starting their own business? Words of advice.
Well, so I would say you need to get experience. You need to, you know, like I said, I didn't start out wanting to be an entrepreneur. I became one. But at every facet, I remember something that I used, what I learned in one of my other jobs. You need that a little bit because for two reasons. First, you need credibility. You need to be able to walk into a VC's office and say, I am this. This is what I've done. This is what sucked. This is how I'm changing it. Really very simple. On the other aspect, I know you're all thinking, yeah, but Mark Zuckerberg didn't do that. And I would say, yeah, But Mark Zuckerberg also had a very personal pain, as we all saw and heard, that he was trying to solve, and he got traction. He had 500,000 people already signed up before he got his first dollar. And he sacrificed because that was a gamble. But that was a gamble in an area that didn't exist. That doesn't happen very often.
So the one most important piece of advice, maybe it's a class you took, one of your past experiences, one piece of advice that you'd love for everybody to leave with.
I would say don't give up on your dream. If this is what you want to do, if this is your dream, try it out. What have you got to lose? Nothing at all. Because, there's no such thing as failure. There really is not. Failure just means you haven't put in the right words. So if you've tried something, if I fall down walking up the thing, you know what I'm going to realize? I should have lifted my right foot up half an inch higher next time. That's it. There's no failure. Failure, as long as you can turn it into some kind of an actionable item next time, it's just a learning curve. And you can, you can have a business at any age. I mean, I'm going to be 50 tomorrow, guys. And, oh, thank you. Thank you. And here I am. So I'm going to be 50 tomorrow. I'm getting ready to start another company, bringing web to television. I want to do this because why? Quite frankly, I'm tired of watching embarrassing Viagra ads and I'm watching TV with my kids. So guess what? I want to control it. It's a pet peeve of mine, and I'm going to build a database, and I have the technology background on how to go do this. So if I can do that at my age, why the heck can't you guys come up with something innovative at your age? You're the future. It's not going to be me. I'm just going to still have the ideas like I did today. We just had an idea today about a global university. So some of the apps that are coming out, I said, well, why can't you take the online university classes in Moscow and Israel and Purdue, and why can't I get credit for them here at Merced? And they're like, well, there's no app for that. So, but yeah, but you guys can all do it.
So we've talked and we've heard you talk about sort of the definition of no. It's a pretty simple word. It's just 2 letters, 1 syllable. But you've shared your own definition, that no isn't no right now. It's how do you get past it? And you earned actually a really interesting nickname. What was it and how did you get that?
What's my nickname? Zombie. Oh, zombie. So, well, it's actually twofold. So no is not no, of course. No is really fear. If you think about it, what is no? No is fear, right? So my daughter Krisha is a champion field hockey goalie. And she says that when she's got an attacker coming at her, knowing that ball's going to hit about 30 miles an hour right at her, that, she says, no fear, all courage, all the time. All courage, no fear. It's coming, no big deal. And I personally think that for me, it's, fear is a mind killer. It just stops you. So you need to face it, you need to walk through it and get going. So part of that is, so my lawyers that I work with recently told me that their nickname for me was Zombie. And I was a zombie because I couldn't be killed. Because no matter how many times I heard no, Gabe did that. So every time I heard no, I would find another way to get back up. But we're out of money. Oh, but wait, what if we just sell this component of it? Or our chief technologist who quit. But wait, what if we just innovate around the technology issue and then we don't have to worry about it? So their nickname for me was Zombie. That's great. But I've grown to now Vampire.
Well, share about Vampire.
Oh, Vampire because of the web thing. I'm sucking all the knowledge out from the web and I'm putting it on TV.
But having that strong visual, sometimes those can really help you through those difficult parts. And talking about difficult parts, how do you know when the idea just isn't working and you need to let it go?
Yeah, that's a tough question, because it's your baby, right? Like this web TV thing, we actually might be too late because some people are doing some of this stuff now and Sony's kind of getting ready to announce it. But of course, so what do? You got to cut your losses at some point. But if your team and you are really strong, you can go back and do something else. You can look back and say, all right, like for us. So we just had this team meeting a week and a half ago. We said, okay, this might be a little bit late. We might be a year too late, but gosh, we love this idea. We love this. What can we do? So, well, why don't we just slice it up? Why don't we just cut off the dead stuff, So the web to TV doesn't work. Why don't we instead build databases and go out and mine all the advertisers on the web and on TV? And why don't we catalog them? So my mom, who wants to watch all the Nestle ads in Hindi, can do that. You know, why don't we do that? So I couldn't, that's really relevant because I couldn't bring in the idea we wanted. 2 years ago, we started with the idea of putting web on television, which basically meant we were going to mash up your Facebook, your emails, your LinkedIn's, your, everything, and we were going to put it on your personal channel. We were going to make your family channel in your house so you could watch it whatever you wanted. And then we would push advertising out to whatever advertising you wanted. So if you didn't want to watch any Viagra ads, you didn't have to. But we're late. So now what we're going to do is reformat the business. We're just going to recycle it. And so we'll cut off some of the other stuff. And then we'll see. You know, part of technology is evolution, right? We're going to see how this evolves. And we'll see what it changes into. Because the way that we started the data isn't what I looked at today. You know, we replaced the core technology of a $4 billion company. But the data wasn't important. It was how we got it. So we'll see.
Hindsight is this wonderful thing of being able to learn from. So via hindsight, what lessons have you learned the hard way? What are some of the warning signals that something's not going in the right direction that's sort of easy to overlook?
Well, there's a couple. I mean, you want to believe in your team. You know, your first few hires are going to be as family to you. But you have to also be able to step back and look and see, is this person really fitting in with me? Because they just may not be. You know, you have to look at your investors and say, are our interests still aligned? Because they may not be. And you almost have to be a cheerleader. You have to be the guillotine guy, the executioner. You have to be the time your clients, you know, you have to be the person who begs your clients to please be there all the time. You know, I learned from my parents because we had a family business, how to work hard. So I've been working for a long time, but, you know, like I said, fast forward today, here I'm 50, and I'm not going to retire starting up new companies. But you need that energy, you know, you need that. So you just have to remember that if you handle it with dignity, you can never hurt somebody. But if you handle them with pain and embarrassment, you will create an enemy, and that's not a good thing.
So building on that, how do you find those right individuals that fit with your mission, that have the same core values? Where do you find them?
You know, for Navigator, we actually hired masters. If you were a fresh master's degree in computer science, you had an interview with us because that's the level of person we needed. Because universities were not graduating people in data. They just, you know, the dean and I had a long discussion on that. But you have to find good people. You have to talk to the people around you. You have to go to events. But more importantly that, you know, your interview process is tough because let me just step back for half a second. When we look at your resumes, we actually believe you can do everything you say you can do. The entire interview, every question is designed to, can you work with me? Can you work with the people that are already working for me? That's the entire interview process. So we're just trying to figure that out. And we have an hour or maybe 2 hours to figure it out, and that's it.
Are you hiring? Do you need a summer intern?
Well, so interns, of course, I'd be happy to have. We just talked about that. We're not sure we're hiring yet because we're raising around.
We talked about last session we had with Julie Rainwright, which was just amazing, and working with the VC community. So just want to lay out a scenario. You're presenting for the first time to a venture capitalist, and your nerves are sort of off of the chart. How do you gather yourself? How do you pull yourself together before you have that all-important discussion?
You know, this is so... I found out, so you have only an hour from start to finish. If you have computer problems, you're cutting into your hour time. You know, you have exactly 1 hour. If they're 15 minutes late, you now only have 45 minutes left. So you have an hour. I found that personally for me, I started out with an antidote. Usually it was something to get to know me, whether it was a joke, whether it was a comment to let them know right away that I had a family, like, oh my God, like, sorry, I'm late. I'm so sorry. You know what a beautiful day. I was telling my daughter the other day, and that's 30 seconds, but they get you in 30 seconds, right? I was just telling the app teams, take out the words and, or, is, but. Make it short, make it sweet, let them know who you are within the first, hi, how are you? Because again, I don't have a ponytail, I'm not 24, I'm not wearing a hoodie, and I have no intentions of wearing a hoodie. And I'm not gonna walk in and tell you that I'm gonna rock somebody's world like that. What I am gonna tell you is I can build you a substantive company that's gonna get a lot of wealth with amazing technology and a group of kids or people. I actually like hiring fresh graduates because you guys haven't been tainted. So, as we put it. So that we can create into this amazing workforce.
And one last question. We've had lots of discussions about balance. Balance of family, you're so devoted to yours, career, personal life, a little bit. Words of advice for really being able to define what balance is and achieve it. Easier said than done.
You do it. How did you do it?
I don't do it. I got to listen to you.
Well, I'll tell you. So I'm going to give you a twofold question. I'm going to give you a women question. I'm going to give you a guy answer. So a guy answer and a woman answer. So for the women in the room, I will tell you that choose smart. And I will tell you that you can have it all, just not at the same time. You have to choose when you want what, right? And that is for the women. For the men in the room, I will say, choose smart. And remember, you can have it all, but not at the same time. That mistakes made when you're young and you have nothing to lose are gold. They're knowledge. They're not mistakes. But as you progress through life's journey and you have responsibilities not only to your family, but to your spouse, to your parents, to your colleagues, you need to make smarter decisions. And work-life balance really means sacrificing something of yourself at any given time. When you're in a startup, there's two things. There's your family at work and there's your family at home. And there's really nothing else in the middle. There's no working out, there's no tennis lessons, there is no sleep. Well, sleep is a luxury. You had that. Yeah. See? For me, it was Friday night at 5 until Sunday morning at 10. But that is what you do. That is work-life balance. But it's worth it. The reward is worth it because you love what you're doing. Your family sees that you're doing what you love. So if you love what you're doing and they see it, then how can you not be a win-win?
Hi, George.
Hey, George.
You've mentioned that you, or maybe not you, but other people in the industry prefer graduates that have just they're fresh because they haven't been tainted. I've heard that before. So would you place a great deal of importance on people with a professional degree? I mean, how important is that as opposed to just a bachelor's degree in today's economy?
In today's economy, I would really tell you to stay in school as long as you can, because you need to get like the app challenge experiences. You need to get the internships. You need to get your deans to give you a project, even if it's for free. The reason I say that, if you have no intention of getting a graduate degree, that's not a bad thing either. I'm just saying that. If you get an undergraduate degree and you get out there in the workforce, that's great. But remember that we're just looking for what you have done in school from an internship perspective. What work have you done, right? So for example, you have knowledge today, but it's very broad and it's very basic, right? I'm looking for data miner. I want somebody in data mining who's got Perl and PHP and MySQL and this and this and this. How are you going to satisfy that? How am I going to shorten my time window? Because it's going to cost me money. So I can hire you tomorrow, and it's going to take me 6 months to get you to where I need you to be. But if you have a graduate degree, hopefully it'll only take me 3 months. That's why these things happen, because you've got some knowledge from school that you came with. So now the time window is shrinking. What we were trying to do with the app challenge is actually close that gap completely. So you have hands-on project experience in a real-life environment like your capstone class does. And also give me, when I look at your resume, when you talk to me, say, so tell me what you did. You'll be, bam, you can tell me what you did. And all of a sudden you're going to like, did you just have a job or did you go to college?
Hi, Ms. Yadav. Thank you for coming out.
Hi.
My question was very basic. Sometimes, you know, I'll have an idea, and I just wonder, how do you assess if your idea has potential? Because I mean, who do I ask? Like, where do I go to see, you know, if it's worth taking the next steps in pursuing this idea? So what do I do, and where do I go?
Well, that's a really good question. So you're looking for data, right? How many other people have the same problem you have? How many other people can look for this issue? So if you're looking to surmise and test out a product idea, that's easy. You know, how many people really use this widget, and who's going to buy it, right? So you can do it simple at the UCM. It's simple. I suspect you can go ask your professors, your deans, and then ask if you can talk to their class and say, how many of y'all will buy a widget that works with your left hand? Right? And people put their hand up, you've got data. Right? You can go to the Census Department, the uscensus.gov, that gives you a huge amount of data on money, on geographics, on needs. Right? There are lots of other companies out there. There are actually a lot of venture capitalists that have websites also. When you look at emerging trends, you go to VentureBeat. That's a great, or thefunded.com. That's a good idea. There are a lot of people there that are talking about what's new. You know, the one thing with the entrepreneurs, like, and you and I've talked before with this app challenge, you have your pulse on what's happening right now in the technology industry. What you need to do is marry that with what's happening in the marketplace. And then your idea works. And for that, you just need data. And you got to go to Forbes.com. You've just got to go find it.
Other questions? Peter?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Peter, yeah, obviously. And thanks for coming to our campus. But I was going to ask, you said that people should go out there and get experience. And I was going to ask if you could make a value judgment on experience gained working for somebody else versus experience gained going out and trying on your own, and maybe, if not experiencing failures, maybe false starts, if you want to call them something, we'll euphemize. So could you make a value judgment, yeah, on those?
You know, the thing is that when you work for somebody else, you're being taught structure. It's like going to school, right? When you went from high school to college, you were taught skills in college that you didn't learn in high school. It's the same equivalent of going from college into a first job. It's important because you need to learn work ethics, you need to learn certain rules, you need to learn, like I said, not to wear a hoodie to an executive meeting. You know, these are certain things that you will learn that you may not pick up on your own because you're not exposed to them. On the same note, if you can get a little bit of that skill set, whether it's through internships or projects or just talking to folks and shadowing them, then you can reapply that into what you're trying to do. There is no such thing as a false start, even if it's a food truck. You know, it's fine, but don't get your food truck in a heavily, you know, you got to do your homework, right, and do your math on that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you wouldn't wear a tuxedo in a food truck, for example, right? But those are skill sets you would need to learn. And that's the knowledge. Again, it goes back to the knowledge you get in college and in high school is very different than the knowledge you get in the workplace.
I guess I kind of have a follow-up question then. When would you say that you have achieved the skills, or how would you judge a person on when they've achieved a skill set to achieve in an area? Like, how would you, I mean, yeah, that's kind of broad, I guess, but so you have to acquire a skill set in order to succeed in any area of business, right? How would you know when you're ready to go out and start your own business? How do you know when you have all the skills needed to at least, 80% of the skills to be successful, and then you can get the last 20% or whatever on your own?
Well, you know when you're really frustrated. When you're frustrated, you're working on a problem, you're trying to solve it, you're getting no help from your boss, you're getting no help from you've gone outside to different groups in your company, you're getting no help from them, and you know this idea is good because it needs to happen, and you're going to do it. When you've tried to work within the industry and it's not helping you, you've got to go out and do it. You know, I have a friend, his name is Art DeGees, he started Synopsys, and Art is a PhD. He and there were 5 people in his group, and they were shutting down his group. You know, they were shutting down the group. And he convinced, was it GE? It was GE. He convinced GE to let them have 6 months on this technology. And what he said, he said 6 months, and if I can get money to take this out and buy from you all, I'll do that. So then he went to venture capital and said, hey, you know what? He didn't tell them they're shutting this down. He goes, you know what? I have an opportunity to buy this technology from GE. And GE is going to let me have everything, the technology, the hardware, the IP, everything. And the VCs are like, well, that's cool. If GE is buying, if GE is going to let you have this, then it's got to be something, right? Then he went back to GE and he said, you know what, guys? I've got venture capital. They're going to put money in this. They love this idea. And we just need 6 more months for you to support us and fund us so we can live here. So you have to give us our jobs for 6 more months. And GE's like, wow, you got venture capital? Okay, fine. So he actually ended up telling, but his need was, just to go back, his need was that they were going to shut him down. I mean, he was going to be out of a job. So for him, it worked out, and he's Synopsys. But, same idea is what I'm saying. You need to know when you're really frustrated and you just can't, there's nothing else you can do. You got to either get out or you're dead. And Peter, you'll never have all the skills. You'll hire.
Hi, Ronnie.
Hey, hi.
I'm Sina. Okay, so hypothetical scenario. Say you come up with a really good idea and you start developing it and you actually get pretty far with it, but then you come up with another idea and you like that idea better to the point where you've totally lost interest in the idea you've already started developing. How do you prevent that from happening? Other than ADD medication, or what advice do you have to stay motivated on the idea that you're currently working on?
Well, Zina, you get hopefully your team members to say, okay, enough of this distraction. Let's get back to work because we've got some money coming in. You just got to see where it goes back to data. How much information do you have that your new idea is going to be successful? And is it really? And how much more is it going to take to get it successful? Because if you have an old idea, you've put a lot of time and effort and brain power into it. And if you have done that, is it worth just scrapping it because this new idea is prettier? Because, that's what an entrepreneur does. We have really, really bad days sometimes. We have bad weeks. We have bad months, But if you're going to give it up, then that's not the right thing for you, because then you have an employer, because they have the bad days and bad weeks and bad months, right? And you just have a task to get done. But you got to remember, you chose that for a reason. And you just got to keep reminding yourself that that day is going to come when you're going to stand up and you're going to say, yes, I did it. I invented e-commerce. Oh, no, that was me.
Thank you.
Because I'm just now getting to that.
Hello, thank you for coming. My name is Jonathan. I just had a quick question. You mentioned that failures can be one of the biggest learning experiences. Can you share maybe a short story where you had a failure, but it turned out to be one of your biggest learning experiences?
Well, I've had lots of failure. I really have had lots of failure. Cameras in the classroom were a failure, right? But I realized that the technology had to be caught up, for example, and that if I'm looking for something that has regulatory issues around it, so maybe that's not a good path to go, right? Paying your ticket online was a failure, but I filed the patents on it, and they got issued after 10 years, right? One of the things I put in my patent was the ability to make a payment for something via a cellular phone. Fast forward 10 years, they're just now getting to that mobile payments, right? But it was a failure. The company didn't go anywhere. So,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Time for more questions.
Ronnie, if you could redesign the university to get what you need, how many years would it really take to start with a high school student like your daughter and educate the average high school student to be able to compete in your business? Is 4 years the right amount? Is it a calendar type time maturation process, or is it something that could be compressed?
That's a really tough question, because one thing America does really well is we educate our kids to think. We teach them to think and solve problems. We teach them to innovate. And the US, if you think about every cool product that has changed the world, has come from the United States. Every single product, well, except Tesla, but technically he could be adopted, we don't know. So I would say to you, it's a tough thing. We need education to have these college kids come. My only thinking today is that the universities are going through a transformation as well. You know, we have deans that are actually doing just that. They're asking questions of people who are hiring and saying, what do I do? You know, how do I get these guys also employable so there's no second issue of what do you look at? It's like, what, you're graduating from Merced? Come work for me. I think from a technology point of view, they probably need a little bit more time. You need some more core classes from programming. I think everybody in this room should take a basic accounting class because you're going to need it. Just basic accounting, you know, debits, credits, you're going to need that for anything you do. And so, you know, but they're changing. You know, if I could redesign Merced, I would do heavy data. Data is the future. I would do innovation. I think innovation, you know, hardware innovation marrying with software innovation, that is just new. You know, I have a friend actually who's going to be talking next year who's got this chip thing coming out, and I was telling the app team that this is a non-volatile chip, which means that it'll never lose data. It'll never lose any information on the chip. You know, can you imagine what a software programmer could do with something that never loses anything and doesn't, and you don't even lose the level of code. So your code never gets degraded. It never turns off. I mean, how much could you do? But you know, you guys are doing some pretty cool stuff here, like the 3D lab. I tell everybody about the University of California 3D lab. That is the scariest thing ever because it makes you dizzy. Because the professor there, has everybody seen the 3D lab? Oh, you have an amazing 3D lab. It's a reproduction of an Italian villa, I mean a Roman villa. And it's literally a room over in the engineering building. And you put on these glasses and it's like you're really walking through this villa. It's 3D. You can walk around the room, you can look this way, and then when they start moving it faster, you have to start running because you got to keep up with it. And then when they go really fast, you get dizzy because it's like, oh, I'm going to fall. You got to stop. And then they go over a cliff and like you actually feel like you're going to fall. So it's over there in the engineering building. You guys should go see it. It's pretty cool. But I don't know if that answers your question, Dan, but I would say more computer science classes. More programming.
Do we have any questions from your #1 supporters? Anyone in your family have a question for you?
That's a tough one right away.
Hi, my name is Blake, and I have a question for you. I personally don't have a technical background, but obviously as the world and the business world is moving to a more technical area, how would you have any advice for those of us with non-technical backgrounds looking to work in a business environment? What would you say to us to help us gain and maintain respect for employees that will have technical backgrounds, and to show that we, even as a non-technical businessman, that we, I guess, want to work in that technical world?
Well, you know, we need people like you because there's a lot of stuff we can't do, right? You are the yin to the yang. You can help run the business. You can help grow the business. You can tell us where we're going to have pitfalls in a business, which as technologists, we are in a tunnel vision sometimes. We just don't see it. I will tell you that every technologist in this room needs somebody on the other side of it because balance is the key to any success. And you've got to have balance. And if you can provide a non-technical knowledge to the way we could innovate, then it's a perfect marriage growing up. You know, Google could use you, I know. We have a friend, so I have a friend, his name is Bill Watkins. He was the CEO of Seagate, and he has a degree in poli-sci. You know, he started at Connor doing anything he could, and then he just moved up, and he's a political science major. You know, and but he learned about peripherals because innovators are technologists. Right? They create, but you have to build. If you don't build, you don't become something. And for building, you need business guys, and you need marketing guys, and you need sales guys. You need lots of other people. You know, we can create this really cool thing. I mean, what was the last thing we remember that was really cool that was built that went nowhere? Obviously, quite a few things, because you know, think about everything that's been built that you don't even hear about, right? That's really important. So you need. Don't ever think that, and our app teams have, well, Peter's not a technologist. Sorry, Peter. but they need him. You know, we need that because there's a lot of stuff Peter does that the technologists don't have to worry about. They can create.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Rani, any last words of advice?
Well, our app teams are amazing. Y'all need to know that April, we're opening it up for voting. And I hope you guys will all vote. We were going to set a pool in-house about who would get the most votes. But try it out. Let us know what you think. This is the first year. Year 2 is going to be more spectacular. I hope some people in this room will come out. You know, you don't have to have a functioning, working app. We put ghost slides in also if we have to. So do that. You guys are amazing. You know, you've taken a risk. I mean, when we were asked to be part of this board and this university, it was inspiring because very rarely in the world do you get to be on the foundation of something that's going to be legacy. And this is all legacy. You know, what the deans are creating, what the professors are doing, what you students are doing is legacy. Because you're going to look back when you have grandkids and you're going to be sitting up here and you're going to look back and say, you know, when I was there were only 12 buildings. And now you've got the whole thing populated. So you guys are pretty impressive. And we're really proud and honored to be here. Thank you.